Hey there, welcome. It's movie day or movie week, we should say. First movie this year. Hey, Ruben, how you doing?
I'm good.
Hey, this week's movie, Ruben, it's called Kindergarten Teacher. There's actually two films with that title. There's a 2014 and a 2018 version. 14 is an Israeli film, which is the 2018 is the same film but just done in English. And so this movie is directed by Sarah Colangelo and stars Maggie Gyllenhaal as Lisa Spinelli, Parker Civic as Jimmy Roy, and Gail Garcia Bernal as Simon. And this film, like I said, it was produced and filmed in 2018. And the star, Gyllenhaal, I thought she did a really good job. She plays this kindergarten teacher where you see she's having a difficult time at the home life, although it looks like she's a teacher who's very sensitive, and she's a very touchy-feely person. You see her throughout the film touching kids' heads or even her family members. And you think, okay, I know people like that. It's a little uncomfortable sometimes when they do with children, but you see her progressing in her as she teaches and then in her home. And it starts where there's a young man she sees in her classroom by the name of Jimmy, and she sees that he has a talent, right? He's a poetry savant, right? And she's interested in poetry. She's interested in bettering herself in that area, and she starts off where you think, okay, it's great that she's interested in him, even though his father's not too. He wants him to have a regular childhood. Doesn't want to put too much attention on him, and so, but she starts seeing that she's not focusing too much at home. She's not, but then she becomes obsessive towards this young boy, and she wants him to, she wants him to do well. She wants him to continue doing his poetry and sharing his poetry. And it gets to a point where it gets really nutty because she starts taking the boy to poetry nights where the father doesn't know about that, and she gets really involved in his life and starts really not spending too much time with her family and neglecting them. And it just gets a little bit bizarre. I like the film, Ruben, as in the acting and just the way not only Gyllenhaal but the teacher Gail Garcia Bernal. He did a great job as Simon. He's an instructor for a community college for poetry or extended learning, I believe. And so I thought they did a great job. But I want to talk after you share your thoughts about the film, about just even things I pulled out as a teacher, things that kind of like things to do and not do, and maybe we could talk about that a little bit afterwards. But as a film itself, by the end, though, I will say this: because she was spiraling out of control, she was there's a part in the film where she takes this boy, like I said, to this poetry night, and then she takes him to her home, and right there, it was like blaring red lights. She should have been, arrested, and she wasn't, which seems a little bizarre. And then, of course, things get worse after that. So afterwards, I felt real I just felt uncomfortable. I didn't feel good about it. But I thought, it doesn't mean the movie was bad or the actors were bad. It was just didn't feel good about it. Maybe because as a teacher, I'm like, it's bizarre. I don't think any of this would have happened regarding being able to take a child home without the parent knowing, and then doing things like she did regarding just not really communicating with the home. What do you think, Rube?
I'm confused. Did you like the movie or no? I don't.
No, I said I did. I liked the film. I liked the acting. Yeah, I said that. I liked the film.
It sounded like you did, but at the end,
I did. I just felt. No, you're right though, because at the end, I just felt I didn't feel good because it's because the film is good.
You and I just saw two different movies. I haven't hated a movie like this in years. Absolutely. And you called her touchy-feely? She was pretentious. She was nasty.
But that's great
downright.
acting, right?
I guess I can't get a word out. Pretentious and downright nasty. Before I get into too much of her, and it's weird too because, well, I'll talk about her in a moment, but I don't agree with you, touchy-feely. She was touchy-feely with one kid. But
with other kids too, adults.
The movie reminded me of how excruciatingly terrible modern poetry is, and it could have been a really funny comedy. So as you mentioned, this kid was gifted. I guess he was more gifted in his poetry than the adults because the poetry was terrible. Maybe not so much from him.
Mm-hmm.
But his was pretty bad too. So I guess his poetry doesn't stink as the adults. But I gave this movie a title, or you could describe it like this: modern poets get outwritten by a 5-year-old. That's funny. That's kind of funny if you think about it. It could have been a really funny comedy.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, I have a bias. Modern poetry to me is not very good. Obviously there's exceptions, but whenever anybody gets up and does spoken word, I'm out. I hate spoken word. And they do some of that, and they do. It's like a bunch of words jumbled on a page to, I don't know, to kind of sound clever, but it's not. I do want to give an example of one of his poems that was supposedly a work of genius. Anna is beautiful, beautiful enough for me. The sun hits her yellow house. It's almost like a sign from God. My gosh, the rapturous attitudes they have towards this poem. It's like, I mean, if one of my students wrote that, I would have been like,
he's 5 years old.
It sounds like a beginning. Well, no, they said that that's not what they all were fooled.
Yeah, that's true.
She had written it.
Right. The teacher
and
written it.
They weren't looking at it like he's a 5-year-old. Actually, it does look like a 5-year-old had written it.
Yeah.
So we agree.
Can I be fair, Ruben? You have a lot more knowledge in poetry than I do.
Okay, then
it's good or bad poetry.
Let's throw that out, because that's a bias that I have. A lot of people won't agree with me. They don't think that. They don't have that same feeling of modern poetry. But let's talk about her. She, very pretentious. She says things like this. I wonder if his father would allow me to oversee his progress. Art is not nurtured in this society. And she gives these platitudes, and you just cringe at some of her. You cringe not just because she's overly doting, and we'll get to that right now, of this 5-year-old kid, but she's cruel to her children. And I don't, it's weird because you said you thought Maggie Gyllenhaal did a good job, and for a while I was thinking I did not think she did a good job, but then I thought at one point she stares up and she started pontificating on art. And I thought it was really bad. But then I realized, I don't know if I was getting thrown by her character, who was just so nasty to her children. And remember, this woman just, I thought, you like Gabriel Garcia Bernal's character. He, to me, was very also pretentious. And she just threw herself on him at one point, slept with him without any consequence. That was never brought up again. We're supposed to like this woman.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we're supposed to like her.
I do like. So. Well, you liked her. I
liked her acting. Let's.
I do
not
like
her
how she
character.
Said, I do like what one of her children said to her, which is so right on. I wanted to give a standing ovation to her daughter, her teenage daughter, who says, "Ever since you've taken these poetry classes, you act like the poetry ambassador to the UN." Yeah. Amen, sister.
I think that don't you think the director and the writers are doing that on purpose? I mean, that's why it was such a good piece. That's why she is a good actress, because we hated her. We didn't like her. I didn't like her either. That's why I said I felt bad. I felt dirty afterwards.
I got she's touchy-feely. That's what I got from you.
Wow, she's touching. Go back and look at that film, and audience, look at it. She touches everybody
with her obsession with. Yeah, but that's
Jake, not appropriate. I mean, come on.
That's very surfacey. Who was she at her core? She was very nasty.
Yes. Yeah, I'm saying that's a piece though of her being upset.
Okay, so she touched the kids. That to me was a foreshadowing of what she did with this child by the end. Now
that's part of it.
But to me, I don't judge her as, oh, she's very emotional and touchy. To me, she's a bad person. Right. Yeah, I guess the director created that, wanted you to but I don't like her. I don't follow her. I don't understand her in the sense that she's an empathetic character at all.
Would you say this though, Ruben? Can I just share something? That the other piece I wanted to bring out was, as a teacher, are there people like that in education? I would say most teachers are not like that. However, there are some like that who are pretentious, who are into their, and sometimes they're just focusing on one kid. I'm not saying most teachers aren't there.
We learn nothing from her. As a teacher, I learned only.
Oh no, I think that's not fair.
Bad qualities, poor qualities.
Well, I mean, I think in the beginning you see her that she is somebody who is doing art. They're doing, she has them. There is a program in her classroom. They're doing activities as kindergartners do. I remember taking naps. I know, looking back on that now, is that the best use of time?
I learned nothing.
No, that wasn't my point. My point is this: is that I think what I took out of it though is that, hey, as a parent, and I know you're not, but I am, where you need to go to those parent conferences, you need to go to those back to schools to get to know your teachers, because guess what? They're spending 6-7 hours with your child. You should know them, because you know what? You don't want a bizarro like this lady to teach your kid. And you have a voice, and I think the father took too long of a time to pull his kid out. I would have prosecuted her once she took him home with her.
So, but to me though, she all along the way, she's not exhibiting strong character, a person of strong character.
Right, I agree.
In fact, I agree. He is supposed to not spending like the way you described it. Oh, maybe he's not spending time with his child at home. I don't buy that for a minute. That's according to her interpretation of it. By the way, he says at one point that he wants something practical for his son and to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. No, and she feels like he's not nurturing, and that he's kind of ignoring the talent. But he points out, my son's 5 years old. Come on,
right?
And then so to me, all along the way, she's exhibiting these weird tendencies or out of touch ideas, and then at the end,
I think she gets bizarro as the time goes on, though.
She straight out kidnaps this boy.
Right.
Of course, she puts a fine touch on that. And I do want to say something, because we've been mostly talking about her, and why I feel like ultimately it's not a successful film at all, is that the character of Jimmy, this boy, really has no arc or center at all. Meaning that he's just a prop. He's just a tool to get this story across. Oh, he's the savant who writes supposedly good poetry, but is there does the movie show any reason as to why he writes like this?
I think he's a 5-year-old boy. I think you see that he's like in a trance, and who knows what that reason for that trance is, and he's being able to share poetry.
No explanation. It's just this kid.
But I'm not sure if there needs to be an explanation. I think the point is, he's gifted.
Give us something. We're starving for character development.
I thought he was fine though.
And at the end, I don't want to give anything. I don't want to give it away. But at the end, he does something, right? Yes. He does something which triggers her to get in trouble. Okay, I'll just say that. But I walked away thinking there is nothing in the movie that foreshadows his decision to do that. He's just this kid reacting, and we don't know nothing about. We learn nothing from him, just that he's a 5-year-old boy that she overly loves. And
I'm going to disagree with you, though. I disagree with you.
Let me just finish. But let me just say, overall, of course, there's a symphony of badness. That's just one of many things.
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand what you're saying. She's not a good person, but at the end, I think you see this boy that all along, yes, he's giving this poem, and he's a very quiet kid. He's a 5-year-old, okay. But in the end, you start saying, oh, he's making some decisions, and I won't spoil the ending, but he's making some decisions that tells you, he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly where he's at. He knows exactly who she is, even though he still cares about her. He knows exactly what she's done, and how she's not appropriate.
You got a lot more out of him than I did.
I think that's where the viewer could look at the film and make their decision. Wow. But yeah, I would say that.
Really? I didn't know they could do that.
No, we're just giving our 2 cents there. But the reality is, my point is this: is that as a teacher and as a parent, it's good to know your your children's teacher, because you know what? They're spending so much time with them. You don't want a wacko, teaching your kid, and you have every right to pull your kid out. Okay, and we see that at the end of this film. But anyway, that being said, we disagree, right?
Awful.
Maybe not agreeably, but we disagree. And Ruben says it's terrible. I'd say it doesn't make you feel good watching it, but you see, wow, the acting was great. The direction was wonderful, and I think it's worth seeing. And so thank you for being here with us for another week. And we'll see you next time.
You say she's touchy-feely.
Very touchy-feely.
If you think that Lizzie Borden is touchy-feely, then yes, she's touchy-feely.
Thanks for that, Rube. With that, we'll end the week. Bye-bye. Have a good one.